There's a strange thing that happens to people who think a lot. The same mind that helps them solve problems, see patterns, understand people, that same mind can quietly turn against them. Not loudly, not all at once. It shows up as the promotion they don't apply for, the relationship they pick a fight in, right when things are going well, the goal they almost reach and then abandon for reasons they can't quite explain. Fyodor Dostoevsky understood this almost 150 years ago. He believed that the more aware a person becomes, the more dangerous their own mind can be to them. Today, we're going to explore why intelligent, self-aware people often sabotage the very things they say they want, and the uncomfortable reason your mind might actually prefer the struggle over the solution. Segment 1, the trap of thinking too much. Here's something most people never question. We assume that thinking more leads to better outcomes. More analysis, more awareness, more understanding. Surely that makes life easier. Dostoevsky disagreed, and he disagreed in a very specific way. He believed that intense self-awareness doesn't just help a person see reality more clearly, it also opens a door to endless internal debate, to seeing every angle of every decision, including all the ways it could go wrong. And here's the trap. The more options, risks, and outcomes a mind can generate, the easier it becomes to find a reason to do nothing. Not because the person is lazy, not because they don't want change, but because their mind has become so good at seeing problems that it starts manufacturing them, even where none exist. This is the first sign of self-sabotage, and it rarely looks like sabotage at all. It looks like being careful, being thorough, just thinking it through one more time. Segment 2, when the story becomes the identity. Now, here's where it gets deeper. Dostoevsky's characters often had a particular relationship with their own suffering. They didn't just experience hardship, they narrated it, constantly, to themselves. Of course this happened to me. Nothing ever works out the way I plan. I always end up the one who gets hurt. At first, this sounds like pessimism, but look closer. There's something else happening. These thoughts aren't just descriptions of events, they're becoming a story the person knows how to tell, a story where they understand their role perfectly. And here's the uncomfortable truth Dostoevsky kept circling back to. A familiar story, even a painful one, can feel safer than an unfamiliar one. If your identity has been built quietly over years, around Okranen being the person who struggles, who's misunderstood, who can't catch a break, then success doesn't just bring relief, it brings a question. If I'm not that person anymore, who am I? And for many people, that question feels more threatening than the struggle itself. Segment 3, why the mind resists what it asked for. This is where self-sabotage actually happens, right here in this gap. You get the thing you wanted, the relationship, the opportunity, the stability, and instead of relief, something else creeps in. Restlessness, suspicion, a strange discomfort with things going well. Some people describe it as waiting for the other shoe to drop. Others describe it as feeling like an imposter, like they don't belong in this new, better version of their life. Dostoevsky would say this isn't irrational. It's consistent. If your mind has spent years being an expert at navigating struggle, then struggle is the environment it knows how to operate in. Stability, peace, ease, things simply working can feel paradoxically like unfamiliar territory, and minds don't like unfamiliar territory. So what happens next is subtle but devastating. The mind starts looking for problems in the new situation. Small cracks become catastrophic flaws. A minor disagreement becomes proof this was never going to work. A small setback becomes confirmation of the old story. See, I knew it. And just like that, the person finds their way back to familiar ground. Not because they wanted to fail, but because failure was legible. Success was not. Segment 4, the question Dostoevsky forces you to ask. So what do we actually do with this? Dostoevsky wasn't interested in simple fixes. Just think positive would have struck him as almost insulting to the depth of the problem. Instead, his work points towards something more demanding, honest self-examination. Not, why did this fail? But, is there a part of me that needed it too? That's an uncomfortable question. Most people skip past it instantly. But here's what it can reveal. Sometimes the part of you that resists good things isn't broken or self-destructive in the way you assume. It's protective. It learned at some point that hope was dangerous, because hope that gets disappointed hurts more than no hope at all. So it builds a kind of insurance policy, expect it to go wrong, prepare for disappointment, and if it does go wrong, well, at least you saw it coming. The tragedy is that this protection doesn't actually protect you from pain, it just guarantees it. Summary. Here's the lesson Dostoevsky leaves us with. Self-awareness is not the enemy, but self-awareness without honesty about what your mind is protecting you from can become its own kind of prison. The smartest people aren't immune to self-sabotage. In some ways, they're more exposed to it, because their minds are skilled enough to make the sabotage look like wisdom, like caution, like just being realistic. So, the next time you find yourself pulling back from something good, pause for a second. Ask yourself, not what's wrong with this situation, but what does this version of me believe she'll lose if this actually works out? That question won't fix everything, but it might be the first honest conversation you've had with yourself in a long time. If this gave you something to sit with, that's exactly what this channel is for. Subscribe to Booked Wisdom, because understanding your own mind is the beginning of finally working with it instead of against it.